Good evening, everyone. This is Mayor Cyril Jefferson convening the regular meeting of the High Point City Council. We appreciate you all being here with us. Prior to adopting our agenda, I want to note that every single member of council is here on the dais, along with Madam Manager here for tonight's meeting. We're going to ask you to join us for a moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have our agenda for this evening, and I'll ask if there's any items within the agenda that need to be adjusted, either removed or tabled or pulled. And if there are no items, then we'll entertain a motion to adopt our agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt has been made by Mayor Pro Tem Holmes, seconded by Councilmember Andrew. Any discussion on the motion to adopt our agenda? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, and our agenda is adopted. First item on our agenda is a proclamation. And it is for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I want to invite up a few folks who are members of our community, leaders who do incredible work. And so actually, would it be okay, Catherine, if you, because I know you're going to speak as well, but will you and your team go ahead and come on up and join me up here? Because we are going to do a picture, but want to have you all up here with us. You make time to do a lot. How are you doing? Good to see you. How are y'all doing? And these are members of staff as well as board members and
Just
other community
all
partners?
that work with Family Justice Center,
Okay,
or work closely with the chief
okay, nice.
as well, yeah?
Nice, but before I read, can we just know who's up here? Can you tell us?
Yes. Okay, oh, you want to introduce yourself, that would be even better, yeah?
Sure. I'm Iris Sunshine, Executive Director of the Children's Law Center, Central North Carolina.
I'm Bernice Lauretis, bilingual navigator with the Family Justice Center.
Lisa Dutt with the Kellum Foundation, Craig Kellum Foundation, Strategic Partnerships and Wraparound Services.
Dr. Khan, manager, Family Justice Center. Was on the phone and the administrative assistant for North Family Justice Center.
Brian Hilliard, I'm lieutenant of our special victim unit.
Manager Robertson, I'm with Bedford County Social Services and Adult Protective Services.
I'm Cindy from Asia. I'm a fellow from Southeast Asian country and the director of Southeast Captain Johnson. I'm also a fellow from, I'm from Nikki from the Philippines.
Awesome. Thank y'all for being up here with us. Bear with me. I just got braces 2 weeks ago. I'm one of those people, y'all. I'm awkward. I'm transparent. I am still working on it, so y'all just bear with me, okay? Extra special time. Whereas domestic violence impacts women, men, and children of every age, background, and belief, and is rooted in a pattern of power and control. And whereas physical marks and scars are often the most obvious signs of harm, however, the extent of the pain goes much deeper and can impact one's mental, physical, and financial health. And whereas the Guilford County Family Justice Center is a beacon of light, coordinating essential services, including advocacy, law enforcement, and social, medical, and legal services. And whereas vulnerable children and older adults are impacted at higher levels, and it is essential that we participate and support innovative collaborations like the FJC's Pathways and Camp Hope program for children and the FJC's Elder Justice Committee Coordinated Community Response. And whereas in a community partnership, the FJC has successfully brought together 17 agencies in one place to provide victims with easier access to comprehensive resources. This diverse and unique partnership provides hope and healing to victims of abuse and works diligently to hold offenders accountable. And whereas this October marks the 5th anniversary of the Family Justice Center of High Point, and since opening, nearly 27,000 High Point residents have been served. And on average, an individual works with 5 different organizations when visiting the Family Justice Center for the first time. And whereas by working together, getting involved, and through promoting awareness, we can restore hope. We can stop the violence, and we can make our community safer for everyone. Now therefore I, Cyril Jefferson, Mayor of High Point, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2024 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and urge citizens to increase their awareness and education of this destructive force, which deeply affects many families in our state and local community each year, and to become part of the efforts to stop violence in families. Can we please celebrate the great work that these folks are doing, please? Now, I know you've got comments, but before you do comments, can we go ahead and do a picture while everyone's up here? Is that okay? All right, Chief, I wore pink for the picture, right? No, I can be on the outside. Yep. No, I'll be on the outside. Yeah. Will y'all, yeah, slide on down. And actually, will you get in the center with the proclamation and hold the proclamation? Thank y'all so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Jefferson and all High Point City Council members and leaders for acknowledging October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. What a journey it has been since we started this in 2018. We exist to prevent homicides, to provide resources, and to those who do harm to victims, hold them accountable. Just today, the Family Justice Center here in High Point helped 52 people that walked through our doors. So to say it's been a busy day, it would be an underestimate. And as you heard in the proclamation, since 2018, we've helped over 27,000 people. So this resource is well utilized and well needed in our community. We have a really remarkable collaboration and do great things together daily. I'm so thankful for these partners that are here representing social services and victim advocates and navigators and attorneys and law enforcement. Every year I think about the thing I want to talk about. Normally it's about partnership and connection, but it's been a very challenging year for the Family Justice Center partnership. And I'm particularly grateful for the High Point Police Department this year. Their Special Victims Unit houses a group of detectives that work out of the FJC, and they investigate all child and adult domestic and sexual violent crime throughout the city. And they've actually had several really big wins with catching really bad people lately. But this year was tragic for our partnership because Sergeant Dale Nix with the Greensboro Police Department, who worked at our Greensboro office for almost 7 years, was murdered on December 30th while off duty at a gas station on a Saturday afternoon. He invested so much in the Family Justice Center and was around in 2018 when we were expanding to open our High Point office. And he came over to High Point day after day to work with those detectives to help their leadership think through what it would look like to integrate a team of law enforcement officers side by side with all of our community partners and other government agencies. He really fostered a family-like environment. And when Sergeant Nix was killed on the 30th, we had a gathering on the 31st. And the very first people to walk in the doors of that gathering were the High Point Police Department. Our partnership has done what some would consider impossible, because sharing resources and building capacity and collaboration between government, especially Greensboro, High Point, and Guilford County all together, throw in community-based agencies, that is complicated. But we have successfully worked through finding a shared mission and vision and sticking with it. And that mission being to empower family violence victims to live free from violence and abuse, hold offenders accountable, and provide easily accessible, coordinated, and comprehensive services. We don't do it alone. You can tell by the handful of partners here tonight representing a portion of those folks who work in our center each and every day, and we can't do it without your leadership. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, if I could just say one thing. I just want to say great job. I'll never forget the day I was over at y'all's place with the ribbon cutting and being able to tour the facility. And it's just so amazing. So everyone that works here, thank you so much. And I would be amiss if I didn't also remember our former council member, Chris Williams, who had such heart and soul into that. And I'm so proud of his efforts for that. and just so proud of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And we'll echo those comments. Appreciate you recognizing and honoring Sergeant Nix and the work that he did to support this very, very important effort. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Next, we will have our public comment period. And if you signed up to speak on our sheet, we'll call you in the order that you're listed. And if you did not sign up, you can still have a chance to speak during public comment period. We want to remind folks that when you come forward, that you'll address council and that you'll have 3 minutes for any comments. We ask that you state your name and address for the record. First on our list, we have Don Chiarello. Mr. Chiarello, if you'll come forward, state your name and address for the record, and then you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, my name is Don Chiarello. I live at 522 East Farris, over near Krispy Kreme. I appear today as a member of the community and also for the Climate Change Lobby organization, which is a nonpartisan organization trying to do good things to ameliorate the effects of climate change. It's important to understand that High Point needs a climate action plan, and they need it because it saves money, lots of money. Also, a plan would reduce emissions, promote a healthier environment, and make High Point a better place to live. For example, talking about saving money, Chapel Hill is saving over $80,000 a year after just making changes to LED lighting in 3 town locations, their community center, aquatic center, and town hall. The town expects to save another $20,000 a year through LED retrofit projects at the town's library. That's a lot of money. Asheville used the revenue they generated from replacing street and building lighting with LEDs. And they used that money to fund their first sustainability staff position, who was the person who would sort of try to coordinate all the different efforts. Most of the major towns and cities in North Carolina have or are implementing climate action plans, including Greensboro, Durham, Raleigh, Charlotte, Asheville, and even little towns like Hendersonville. Police departments in Kentucky save $7,000 a year per vehicle in maintenance and gas costs by moving to electric vehicles. Operating more efficient buildings and vehicles saves money and is the right thing to do for the environment. Updating building and land use codes should be a consideration. Solar panels are an issue that the city and Duke Energy needs to get together on. By creating an action plan, you will be better able to prioritize the most important work and be able to take advantage of new state and federal funding opportunities, especially the Inflation Reduction Act, which provides generous grants to cities, but only to those with a climate action plan. Now, we're talking about millions of dollars. After upfront costs, the ongoing savings from reducing energy use and landfill fees could be used to hire staff, make further upgrades, and save taxpayers money. Is that my time?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chiarello, thank you so much.
Thank
for
you
your
very
comments.
much.
Next on our list, we have Camden Vaughn. Mr. Vaughn, if you come forward, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address council.
Okay, Camden Vaughn. I'm a resident of High Point at 1402 Country Club Drive. I'm a resident that's affected by the Kensington Christian Academy. So I won't necessarily use all 3 minutes, but I did just want to establish, and more or less I was surprised when I received it.
So
Sir, did you say you were here for the Kensington Christian
Yes.
Academy? That's later on the agenda, right?
That's later on the agenda, yes.
Do you, are you planning to participate in the hearing?
Yeah.
Because if you are, then, I'm sorry, you should wait until later on in the agenda.
Okay.
Yep,
Wait, okay.
yep, that's perfect. All good. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Engel, I see your name, but I assume you want to wait until the hearing? Okay, perfect. Next, we have Vicky Austin. Mrs. Austin, if you'll come forward, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address council.
Mayor, council members, city manager, my name is Vicky Alston. I reside at 1713 Scarborough Road here in the city of High Point. And I thank you for the opportunity to bring your word from the street tonight. And the word on the street is our police officers are being disproportionately and extraordinarily rough with our community. I really do appreciate Chief Cheek's presentation on the use of force last week. And, you know, it's theoretical application. However, the optics of its practical application just didn't add up. And that's according to the word on the street. And I even still have questions. There have been 3 incidents within the past 6 months where the police department says that it's had to use force. And I understand from his presentation the other night why they're saying they're using it, but I still have questions about it. One incident that really tugs on my heart and keeps me up at night is we had back on August the 19th, there was a woman who suffers, a black woman who suffers, she's bipolar, she's in the system, and, you know, and it's not that her family doesn't care about her, they're here in the chambers tonight. It's just that she's under a $2,500 bond, which, you know, I don't know how they'll ever be able to get her out of the system, this part of the system. I feel that somehow, somewhere, somebody can be doing more to try to get her treatment for her condition, which may alleviate her being put in front of the police department. And I just feel like it was just too much stress, too much force used with her, and it just puts, it put the whole community around there that saw that incident under stress. So I just, you know, feel that I'd love to be able to get out here and get into my community and vouch for our police department. I would love to be able to try to calm some of the, all of this stuff that gets out on social media and, you know, and whatnot, but I still have questions. I have questions like, where's the humanity in our police department? Why isn't our police department leading with humanity towards our community? The chief advised officers that get 130 hours training, which is only 24, and only 24 is mandated by the state, but does the police department training cover mitigation for racial bias? Does those hours include building trust and legitimacy in the community? And does this training help officers to recognize and reduce the impact of implicit bias?
Mrs. Austin.
Those are my questions.
Thank you so
sir.
much for your comments. We appreciate it. Next on our list, we have Mayor Bernita Sims coming forward. If you will, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address council.
Thank you, Mayor Jefferson and council members. My name is Bernita Sims. I reside at 825 Rosecrest Drive in the city of High Point. Thank you, first of all, for allowing us to come and to speak. I want to preface my remarks by saying I think that Chief Cheeks and his team, his department, they do a really good job in the work that they do for our community. Without them, we would not have the feeling of safety that we have in our communities. I know they provide a great service. I know that we look to them to make sure that we are all safe in our homes. But I do believe that in the process of the work that they do, sometimes the humanity is lost in that process. And that's one of the things that Ms. Austin talked about earlier, is the optics of what people see when these videos are all over social media, and you see 2 police officers beating a woman who appears to be handcuffed. I'm going to say appears to be handcuffed. And when you see 5 officers beating a gentleman who appears to be under control, and we look at it and say, what does this say for our city? And so we are deeply concerned, and I speak on behalf of the Black Leadership Roundtable of High Point, that the optics of what we see is reflective of what people think about our police department. And I believe that in some instances, that's not really the case. But of course, transparency is not the word of the day when it comes to what happens with policing in our community. So what we are looking at is saying, can we get to a level where once that person is controlled, you don't have bumps and bruises and everything else that goes along with it? There are stories that say what happens when they're in custody is different from what we see. And so I would say at some point we need to get to a point where we're all on the same page about what policing looks like in our community and how we treat our citizens. The other ask is that we look at how we deal with mental health individuals on the street when things happen, because there are people out there that are committing acts under the influence, for one thing, and then with mental health issues that we need to address in our community before we determine that people are combative, that they need to be restrained, and the use of force that is being used is necessary to restrain those individuals. So I would ask that we get a report out from the city about what we're doing with mental health folk on the scene when these things happen, to make sure that we're not violating the rights of those individuals who don't know what they're doing. They have no clue about what is happening at the time that arrest is going on. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Mayor Sims, thank you. Next on our list, we have Mr. Joseph Austin. If you'll come forward, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address council.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam City Manager, council members. My name is Joseph Austin. I reside at 1713 Scarborough Road here in the city of High Point. And my presentation is going to be very, very short. I just sat in the manager's briefing on the One High Point Commission report. And first of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Leah Henry and the NEMED staff for the work that they did on this project, keeping it moving forward. I'd also like to thank City Council for continuing to work on this project. My only concern is that as the former chair of the One High Point Commission, the commission was formed to deal with reparations. And in order to do so, now I've been in the city for about 40 years. I've been doing this work for about 40 years. I've been asked the question numerous times, do you really think this is a reparations package? And I have to say that this was the opportunity to get the biggest bang for our buck. And we took advantage of that opportunity, and I think that we came up with a very good plan. My issue is that by it being a reparations package, and one of the recommendations was an apology that cost absolutely nothing, but sets the stage for the work that we did for 18 months, was placed at the bottom of the list. Now, I understand you're going to work in phases, but that costs nothing. That sets the stage for everything. So that's my concern there. Now, as a member of the Black Leadership Roundtable, I too applaud Chief Cheeks for meeting with the community and explaining the levels of force and having real conversation about the issues that are happening in the city. We keep using the word optics, you know, and we've also said that we need to educate the community. Well, there's a segment of the community that you're not going to reach to educate them. You know, they're going to continue to ask questions. And I'm connected to the street, so I get questions all the time. And I'd love to say, this is what happened, but I take nothing for face value. So, and I don't give out third-party information. So until I can see it and feel it, then I can't fully support it. But I thank you for your time, and I offer to Chief Cheeks my assistance in anything that he needs to have happen.
Thank you, Mr. Austin.
And I continue to do so.
Thank you so much. There are no more folks listed on our sheet for public comment, but if you'd like to come forward to speak, you can come forward. All we ask is that you state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address council.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eugene Little. I live at 901 Newland Place here in High Point, North Carolina. I'm going to address the August 19th incident. I respect the High Point Police Department. I have no trust in them. Something needs to be done because this is a neighborhood. Some of us don't have cars. We have to get on the bus. But to turn a trespassing charge into or assault charge and say there was no wrongdoing for someone like Kiana is just very hurting. I have been down that path. There's nothing you can do when an officer come to you and you try to do everything you can to obey them, but they still charge you with stuff that you didn't do. It's their word against yours. I think a lot of the officers are very disrespectful. And they're human. We need them, like you say, but where a lot of y'all live, we don't go in y'all community. Where this happened at, you got young kids down there. How can you charge her with trespassing, no trespassing, but you got other people in the same area right across the street, no trespassing, but you don't go up and get them. They choose who they want to harass. And if you go to court and you try to fight it, you plead not guilty, they constantly come at you. And I have a long history of police record by the High Point Police Department. And it's just a shame that you have people that you're supposed to trust that I do not trust. And you can't go up the ladder, or High Point Police Department do not have a thing where you make a complaint outside of the High Point Police Department. When I was on Leonard Street, I don't tried. It's just very sad that these people with education, a job, just got to really tell a lie on you. Whatever they say, it goes. But to beat someone like that, and I just left, the officer talked to her on my phone. I left, that's my sister-in-law, I don't want to see her nude. They don't do this with her over and over again. We have tried to help her, and stuff like that right there. This is just uncalled for, to see the High Point Police Department do this and cover their own self. And it go on and on and on. I thank each and every one of y'all. I respect each and one of y'all, even the officers. But it's nothing to be done with whatever officer say it goes. Something need to be done about that incident. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during public comment? If so, we'll ask that you state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address council.
Yes, my name is Floyd Carlton. I live at 508 Forest Street here in High Point, North Carolina. I'm the husband of Kiana Carlton that the officer assaulted on August the 19th. And the video and everything of that assault and everything, nothing been done. They covered up. I called police department. I actually talked to Chief and everything. They wouldn't let me talk to him. After the video was showed, them two officers went 2 days later and added 2 more charges on her. and got her charged with 2 felonies and got her under $27,000 bond. Now, if y'all see that video, now she's schizophrenic, bipolar, and she do crack cocaine, but when she does some incident that goes in with her and everything, the officers, they know this because they dealt with her several times. Usually they take her to the hospital and get her, the evaluation right there. This time, I talked to that officer that saw her on the phone, and he told me that they was transferring her to the hospital. An hour later, I received a video showing one officer got her pinned on the hood of the car, she's handcuffed, and he got his baton and he constantly just beat. See, this don't make no sense, and that ain't the first time they've done that to her, and nothing's been done about it. You got good officers, you got bad officers, regardless, but it don't make any sense where an officer can beat a little small woman like that right there, and he's about over 200 pounds, and nothing done about it. And to cover themselves, after they seen the video, they come back 2 days later and put 2 more charges on her, which is felony, and got her on a $27,000 bond. Why nothing ain't done about it? Why nobody won't say nothing about it? I tried to get in touch with Chief, nobody wouldn't talk to me, or nothing. And something needs to be done about it right here because it's very hurt. And they need to stop the violence on citizens. You got these good officers and everything, it's fine, but they need to stop the violence on the citizens of High Point.
Mr. Coffin, thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak during public comment period? If so, come forward and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address council. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public comment period and express appreciation for those who took the time to come and speak and make your voices heard to this council. Thank you. First item for discussion is our consent agenda. Seeing what's here, I'll entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made by Councilmember Moore and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Holmes. Any discussion on the motion to approve our consent agenda? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, and that motion passes. First item under general business is item 2024-382. This is a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing for High Point Family Worship Center, Special Use 24-02. With that, I'll pass it to Madam Attorney for our introduction on this item.
Thank you, Mayor. For those listening online, this is Megan McGuire, the City Attorney. I'm going to do just a brief overview of the hearing that we have on tonight's agenda, as it's rather different than most of the hearings that Council hears. Before the Mayor opens the special use permit hearing that's on the agenda, I'll give this overview. A quasi-judicial hearing is an evidentiary hearing. That means it is like a court hearing and will be recorded. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how this council must make its decision on the special use permit. These rules are different from other types of land use decisions, like rezoning cases, which require a legislative public hearing. This is also very different from the public comment period, which we just held, and the council offers monthly, during which time the public may speak about anything that they wish. These proceedings will be governed by the rules of procedure of this council, the city's development ordinance, and Article 4, Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General Statutes, as well as other applicable law. The council's discretion here is limited, and it must base its decision upon competent, material, and substantial evidence presented during the hearing. The council is constrained to consider only facts and must apply the standards in the development ordinance and state statute to these specific facts. If you will be presenting evidence tonight, please focus on facts and standards, not personal preference or opinion. This meeting is open to the public and everyone is welcome to attend. However, participation in a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing is limited, and only parties with standing have rights to participate fully. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Parties are limited to, first, the people or entities with an ownership or lease interest in the property; second, the applicant; third, the City of High Point staff; and fourth, any individuals who can show that they will suffer special damages distinct from the rest of the community as a result of the decision tonight. For certain topics, the council may only hear opinion testimony from expert witnesses. Individuals providing expert opinion must be qualified as experts and must provide the factual evidence upon which they base their expert opinion. Please note, only experts may testify on certain matters, including but not limited to property values, traffic impact, and anything else that an expert would be required to testify on. At its discretion, the council may allow other non-party testimony so long as it is competent material and substantial evidence that is not repetitive. Non-party testimony should be limited to facts and should be relevant. This is not the time or place to offer opinion, policy suggestions, conjecture, speculation, or anything else irrelevant to whether the matter under consideration meets the development ordinance standards. Next, I'm going to give a quick overview of special use permits, which is the matter before us tonight. A special use is a land use that may be appropriate at some locations within zoning district, but because of its nature, extent, and external effects, requires special consideration of its location, design, and methods of operation before it can be deemed appropriate for that location. Before granting a permit to allow the special use, City Council must conduct a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing to determine whether the proposed special use meets the required review standards per the development ordinance in North Carolina state law. As provided in section 2.4.12.c of High Point's development ordinance, a special use must be approved upon a finding that the applicant demonstrates the proposed special use, number one, will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed. Number two, complies with all required standards, conditions, and specifications of the development ordinance. Number three, will not substantially injure the value of the abutting land. Number four, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located. And number five, is in general conformity with the city's adopted policy guidance. Please note that the applicant has the burden of showing that the special use permit request meets each of these five standards. Finally, appropriate conditions may be imposed on any special use permit, provided that the conditions are reasonably related to the special use permit. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
And with that, thank you, Madam Attorney. With that, I would now open the hearing for application SUP-24-02. This is a request by High Point Family Worship Center for a special use permit to allow a major and minor school use type as listed in Principal Use Table 4.1.9 of the Development Ordinance in the Residential Single Family -3 R3 District for the property located at 1207 Kensington Drive. This special use permit application is being considered pursuant to Section 2.4.12 of the Development Ordinance. Before we hear from the parties, we need to check for any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications. The parties to this case are entitled to impartial council members. The council member may not participate in this hearing if they have a fixed opinion prior to the hearing that is not susceptible to change, financial interest in the outcome of the matter, or a close familial or business relationship with an affected person. Additionally, council members must disclose any ex parte communications. Ex parte communications are any communication about the case outside of this hearing that may include site visits as well as conversations with parties, staff, or the general public. I will offer for the record that over the weekend, the entire city council received an email from Ms. Kay Barrier regarding this matter. Aside from that, does any council member have any partiality, conflict of interest, or ex parte communication to disclose? I will state for the record that just days before we learned about this coming before as an agenda item, I made a visit to the school. And the next one?
Sir, Mayor, I believe you're talking about the next quasi-judicial hearing.
You got it right. I am so sorry. Strike that from the record, please. It's better be safe than sorry, Madam Attorney.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Hearing none, we will proceed with the hearing. I will now check to see if there are any other individuals aside from the staff and applicant wishing to participate as a party in this case. As a reminder, a party is different than an individual who wishes to speak during non-party testimony. Only an individual with legal standing has rights to participate as a party and present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Aside from the staff and the applicant, is there anyone wishing to be a party in this matter? Aside from the staff and the applicant, the only individuals who can participate as parties in this matter are those with an ownership or lease interest in the property, and individuals who can show they will suffer special damages distinct from the rest of the community and general public as a result of the decision. Are you wishing to participate as a party in this matter or simply provide non-party testimony on the matter? Non-party testimony? You wish to be a party? Okay. If wishing to be a party, since you wish to act as a party to this case, you must first make a standing determination. To have legal standing, you must show you will suffer special damages distinct from the rest of the community and general public as a result of the decision. Please provide testimony and evidence as to how you will suffer special damages if the special use permit request is approved. So you come on forward. You got to come up here to the podium so folks can hear you.
So to clarify, I'm both a resident of the community as well as an expert testimony, but I don't have special damages, so I didn't know if that's part of party or not.
So a party is limited to if you have a property or leasehold interest?
Yes, I own a property and I'm an expert testimony.
That is different than the rest of the community. So are you a neighbor?
Yeah, I own a piece of property that's affected by.
So you would have, are you able to show that you would have special damages distinct from all of the community and the general public due to the ownership of your property?
No, not damages, no.
Right. So then that would be non-party testimony. What are you putting forward to be an expert in?
Finance. So financial testimony.
Can you, if you go ahead, so this will be a determination that the council makes. So
Right.
if you go ahead and state for the record your name, your address, and then put forward what you would like to be a party for, what testimony. And please provide testimony and evidence as to how you believe that you're a party to this.
Okay. Camden Vaughn, address is 1402 Country Club Drive in High Point, North Carolina. And so my experience is in finance. I've worked for Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse. I'm currently a financial analyst, and I've been so for the past like 13 years.
How is that expert relevant to the matter before us here today?
The case that I'm looking to build is that the permit is for up to 50 students, and I ran the numbers behind the finances of the school on North Carolina averages, and even though the school has stated that years 3 through 4 is when they would anticipate to go up to 50 students, which is what the special use permit would allow, the finances tell a different story. The finances state basically that the school is planning to exceed that 50 student limit. So my goal is essentially to go on record not to necessarily oppose the 50 student permit that they're looking to do today, but rather build a case that it's not financially feasible and that they're looking to exceed that 50 students at a later date and time.
This is a determination that council will have to make to consider if you think that that meets the qualifications of a party, or if perhaps that would be better suited for non-party testimony.
Right, and can I read a reminder off of the list just for everyone what a party is? So as a reminder, a party is different than the individual who wishes to speak during non-party testimony. Only an individual with legal standing has rights to participate as a party and present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. The only individuals who can participate as parties in this matter are those with an ownership or lease interest in the property, and individuals who can show they will suffer special damages distinct from the rest of the community and general public as a result of the decision.
So is that to say, Councilman Moore, is that to say he would be able to present in the non-party portion?
If denied, he would be able to present in the non-party testimony. If we approve, we're saying that he is a party with special damages.
Mr. Mayor, it's Councilman Holmes, Mayor Pro Tem Holmes. From what Mr. Vaughn has presented, I don't think I don't think he rises to the categorization of party. And so, Madam Attorney, at this point, would we bring a motion?
Motion, yeah.
To deny Mr. Vaughn as a party, or accept Mr. Vaughn as a party at this point?
That's right.
All right.
There's been okay, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to deny Mr. Vaughn as party to this case.
There's been a motion made to deny Camden Vaughn as a party in this matter. Is there a second? Second. There's a second made by Councilmember Johnson. Any discussion on the motion that's been put forward?
If I could just say something, and I don't know if this is correct, so please stop me, but I just want, this is very unique, a very unique situation, so I just don't want anybody to think that this is something that we're real used to and don't want to hear people's voices, but it's a legal matter, so we really have to listen to our attorney, so I just want you to know that.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? And your motion was to deny. Yes. So this is a motion to deny. If you vote aye, you're voting to deny. If you vote against, you're voting to accept. All those in favor of denying Mr. Camden as a party, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it via a vote of 9-0. The motion that Camden Vaughn has standing to participate in this proceeding as a party is hereby denied.
For his clarification, he will speak during the non-party.
You will have an opportunity to speak during non-party testimony.
Thank you. And to be clear, before we transition, are there any other individuals who wish to make a standing that they are a party aside from the applicant? Okay. At this time, the city clerk will administer the oath for all individuals present who intend to provide witness testimony. Only those individuals who are sworn in will be allowed to address the council. So if you believe there's any chance you may want to testify in this case, please come forward at this time. Madam Attorney, can I ask that, just for everyone's clarity, in case folks are wondering whether they should come forward or not, can you just help us be clear who should be coming forward at this point to provide testimony, to be sworn in as a witness?
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone who intends to present testimony. So that would include anybody who is intending to present non-party testimony.
So if you're coming up, even if you're not a party, but you want to present non-party testimony, you still need to come forward.
Anybody that plans to testify. Again, this is like a court-like matter where in order to be able to speak, you have to be under oath and testifying.
Okay, so just to be clear, to make sure everyone's hearing that, so whether you are a party, a witness of said party, or a non-party testifier, please come forward so we can have you sworn in to present testimony. Otherwise, you will not be heard during the proceedings. Okay, with that, we'll pass it over to our clerk to handle swearing in. let the record reflect that all 5 folks standing around the clerk did swear in their testimony. I just want to ask, for our clerk's sake, were we able to record the names of those 5 already?
Address for the record.
Again, okay. All right, perfect. The parties have the option to offer an opening statement if they so choose. As a reminder, during your opening statements, please focus on the legal standards and avoid any personal opinion or speculation. Does anyone wish to make any such statement?
Mr. Mayor, Nick Tosco, and I'm the attorney for staff in this proceeding.
Can I clarify first?
Yes.
I just want to make sure applicants, you do not intend to make an opening statement?
That's what I'm getting ready to say. I've spoken with counsel for the applicant, and we've agreed to waive the opening argument, so.
Okay, got you.
I just
Perfect.
wanted to let you know that.
Thank you so
I'll
much.
let him introduce himself later
Okay.
on.
Perfect. With no opening statements, then we'll transition to staff testimony. The council is ready to hear the staff presentation and testimony for application SUP-24-02. Before you begin, please confirm for the record that you were previously sworn in and state your name and address for the record.
Herb Shannon, city planner, senior planner, City of High Point Planning Department, and yes, I was sworn in. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Once again, Herb Shannon, senior planner for the City of High Point Planning and Development Department, and I will be providing you a summary of the staff report for this special use permit request. The applicant, the High Point Family Worship Center, is requesting a special use permit to allow a major and minor school use type for this site that's located at 1207 Kensington Street. This is for a site that's located within the residential single-family 3 or R3 zoning district. This site is located in the central western portion of the city at the intersection, the northwest corner of Kensington Drive and Country Club Drive. This is a 6.5 acre parcel situated on the outer edge of this subdivision, and this site is currently developed with a 21,300 square foot building that is used as a church. This is an aerial photo of the site in question. That area that's outlined, that green border, is the site in question. And this is a street view picture of the site. This is a split level building where the left part of the screen is where it's single level. You have the sanctuary and the main entrance. The right half is where they have offices or areas that will be used for the proposed school. And this is just another view of the side of that facility. Now, the development ordinance allows major and minor schools in certain zoning districts. It's allowed in most of our commercial districts as a use that's permitted by right. It's also permitted in all residential zoning districts subject to obtaining special use permit approval from City Council. And just to assist you as you evaluate this, we talk about major schools and minor schools. Just to clarify, a major school is any high school. We have high school level students. A major school is also any middle school that has a building design capacity that exceeds 800 students. A minor school is an elementary school or a middle school with a capacity less than 800 students. Because this proposal is for a grade level K through 12, would include high school students, that is being designated as a major and minor school use. And in section 4.3.3C of the development ordinance, that lists specific location standards of where to even consider this use type, whether it's a use that's permitted by right or requires a special use permit approval. A school must have frontage and gain primary access on a street that's classified higher than a local residential street. Or if it has access to a local residential street, it must be a corner lot that fronts along a thoroughfare street. In this situation, this site fronts along Kensington Drive, which is classified as a collector street. This is a map of the city's zoning map. I would note the zoning for this property is not being changed. It's currently zoned residential single-family 3. The zoning is not changing. This is a special use permit to determine if this is an appropriate location for a major and minor school. Now, with this request, the applicant has submitted for building permit applications, and we use that information to provide some information as to how the building will sit on the site and how the buildings are being used. This is the plat map of that site that shows generally how the building sits on the site and how it's set back from the abutting residential properties. This is from their building permit application. This is be helpful to show you how the building is laid out. You have the main sanctuary area, a multi-purpose area with a kitchen, and the area outlined in red is the area proposed for the school activity. On the upper level, you have classroom, offices, restrooms, and storage and utility rooms. And on the lower level of that portion of the building, there will also be classrooms, a large meeting room, and storage rooms. With this application, the applicant has submitted conditions or offered conditions. This is a summary of the conditions they offered that, if it's approved, they will govern how this use may operate on the site. This is specifically for a major minor school use type with a student capacity not to exceed 50 students. If there is ever a situation where the applicant desires to exceed 50 students, they would have to apply for a new special use permit and go through this whole proceedings, a separate application for this council's review and evaluation as a new and separate special use permit request. The applicant has offered a condition to not expand the footprint of the building, so all activities must take place within the existing structure. We specifically have, the applicant has specifically noted that if there's any playground equipment, picnic shelters, other recreational equipment, that is excluded from that quote-unquote building expansion. They've also offered a condition that there will be no additional vehicle access point. This site has 2 vehicle access points from Kensington Drive, one of them being a circular access drive that they will use for student drop-off and pickup. And they've offered a condition to modify that circular drive so you can, instead of being a single lane one-way direction, it'd be a 2-lane one-way direction to ensure they can have all their queuing of vehicles on site. And the applicant has offered conditions to upgrade the landscaping to be current with the city's development ordinance, where they will install the required street landscaping yard along the Kensington Drive frontage and update the landscaping along the perimeter of the site to meet a Type B semi-opaque perimeter landscaping. And existing vegetation can be used to meet those landscaping requirements. As the city attorney has noted, there are specific standards, and the staff has provided a detailed overview of that in the staff report. Just a brief summary of the staff comments on those findings, that the first standard will not materially endanger the public health or safety. Staff has outlined in that portion of the staff report that the applicant has offered a condition to limit the facility to 50 students. The applicant has offered conditions to update the circular access drive to accommodate their queuing. And based upon the limited number of students, the Transportation Department has determined that a traffic impact analysis is not required. There is also a standard that it will comply with all the standards of the development ordinance. Staff has evaluated the applicant's submittal and made a determination that the building, the way it's situated on the site, does comply with the standards of the development ordinance. The third standard is that the request will not substantially injure the value of abutting lands or is a special use as a public necessity. The applicant has provided a report that is part of your staff report, an appraisal report on that information, and I'll let them go into the details of that. There is also a standard that the request will be in harmony with the area. This site is located on the outer edge of this neighborhood, about 700 feet from the Westchester Drive, Country Club Drive intersection. So it's not a situation where traffic has to proceed and travel through or meander through the neighborhood to reach this facility. And this is currently, the site is currently used as an institutional use. And this is a situation where there's no building expansion. So as you see, over half the site is undeveloped. That will remain. Finally, as far as being in conformity with the city's adopted policy guidance, the High Point Comprehensive Plan designates this area as a suburban neighborhood use type. And in that description of the suburban neighborhood, it specifically encourages supporting public and institutional uses, such as schools and religious institutions. And also under the description of the R3 district, complementary uses such as open space schools are also allowed. Thus, staff has presented in our staff report a recommendation of approval of this request. That is a brief summary of this, our staff report, and staff is available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Does the council have any questions for staff?
I do.
Yes,
Is it time to ask for, like,
yeah,
traffic-
Councilman Peters,
traffic questions?
if you got any questions, go ahead.
I have a question. So I live in this neighborhood, and the light at the corner of Westchester and Country Club, so this is for traffic. So when you are on Country Club, the light changes super quick. I mean, when it turns green, you may get 2 cars through there, seriously. So have you thought about how you're going to extend that time so that more cars leaving Country Club can get through that light?
Sure, so those signals are timed for the optimal move of traffic, which is on Westchester Drive, but we can take a look at that signal and see if there's any additional time. Oh, I'm sorry. Greg Venable, Director of Transportation.
And
City of
can
High
you
Point.
also confirm that you took the oath? and
I did
swore?
take the oath, I can confirm that.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks. So yes, we can look at the signal timing and extend, look at extending that time on Country Club to, allow more time.
Okay.
We can do that for sure.
Okay, great, thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff from council?
I have one.
Councilmember Harmon.
Mr. Shannon, I mean, is there, since the cap is 50, is there some kind of mechanism to know if they go to 55 to 60? I mean, enforcement of that, I mean, or is that
I would
an
let the
assumption that they're going to do what they said they're going to do?
I will let the applicant document how they had to apply to the state, and the state does have a website that you can check for private and charter schools as to their enrollment.
Okay, thank
That
you.
staff could always follow up on to confirm that. But they have agreed to that condition, but I'll let them go into the more details of that.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Shannon, doesn't that require the reporting, I'm sorry, Councilman Holmes, doesn't that require the reporting from the school to update that website, or is that a state requirement that they report? How is that website populated?
I think it'd be appropriate for the applicant to note their reporting standards since they're specifically applying for that.
Thank you, Mr. Shannon. Any other questions from council for staff? At this time, I will ask, does the applicant have any questions for staff? Thank you. The applicant may now present evidence and legal arguments. As a reminder, any evidence and argument must focus on the applicable standards, documents, and other physical evidence referred to or used by witnesses would need to be entered into the record and a copy left with the council for that purpose. Before you begin, please state for the record your name, address in relation to the case, and please confirm for the record that you were previously sworn.
Okay, the one on the right? Yeah, right here. Okay, thank you, sir. Use this right here, or you can use that right there. Okay, this one right here. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Madam City Manager, Council, my name is Ronnie Engel. I am an attorney here in Guilford County. My office is in Stokesdale, so on the very outskirts of Guilford County. I represent Kensington Christian Academy as well as High Point Family Worship Center and Reverend Barton Atkins, who is present here this evening. and we have a PowerPoint presentation to present to you.
Before you start, would you kindly confirm that you've been sworn?
Mayor, since he's an attorney, he's not actually entering testimony but legal arguments, so he does not have to be sworn.
Thank you so much. Please proceed.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So this is for special use permit 2402, 1207 Kensington Drive in High Point. And the name of the school is Kensington Christian Academy. High Point Family Worship Center owns the property and requests a special use permit to allow the property currently occupied as a house of worship, the subject property, and there's the parcel number, to be used, as Mr. Shannon said, for a major and minor school use type. And of course, Kensington Christian Academy is the name the congregation has chosen. And similar to the prior presentation, there you see the site plan and development, the plat. The colored area is the building where the school is proposed to be. And then the outlined area in the green is of course, the property lines. You can see the area streets around that. I don't want to be redundant with some of this. You've already seen it, so I'll flip through some of those quickly. The proposed school will operate within the existing 21,300 plus or minus square foot institutional structure on the property. And again, it's important to note that there's no building expansion proposed. They're not going to be building anything other than what they're already using. The northern portion of the structure will house the classrooms, the offices for the school on, as was stated earlier, both floors, upper and lower floors. The northern portion of the structure contains the two building stories with approximately 3,400 square foot of floor area at each level, total of 6,800. And that's where the classrooms will be, the offices and restrooms for the school. The structure also contains a 5,000 square foot multi-purpose room, which is separate from the sanctuary, with a kitchen the school will use for special events, physical education, or as a cafeteria. And as you've seen this slide earlier, but there's the outline of the upper level, and there are 4 classrooms, 2 office areas, restrooms, storage utility rooms, and then we've got an enlarged slide there, so you can see that a little bit better, closer up for the upper floor. And then, of course, the lower floor, as you saw earlier, 5 classrooms, large meeting room, restrooms, storage rooms, and then we've also enlarged that so you can see that a little bit clearer, the different classrooms and rooms there. The church contracted the services of a North Carolina certified real estate appraiser who is present here this evening, and we'll be tendering him. His name is Chris Howard. We'll be tendering him a little bit later. And specifically to assess any potential effect on surrounding property values of a special use permit if granted in this R3 zoning district, using historical property value data to determine said effect if one existed. And the appraiser, his report evaluated 3 recently constructed schools, and I say recently, between 2015 and 2021, so within the last 9 years in Guilford County, and their impact upon adjacent single-family residential property values. The average home sales values within 1 mile of these schools were assessed during this time period to coincide with the school openings to date. The Carolina Conference Association School, which is located 8,000 Kleiner Dairy Farms Road in High Point, this was built in 2015. The Phoenix Academy Foundation, Inc., also on Kleiner Dairy Farms Road, built in 2015. The homes that were between 2,000 and 2,500 square foot, average sales price 1116 through 1117. They were 18 sales, 225,000. From 17 to 18 in the calendar year, 29 sales. The average price went up to 231,000. You can see it went up again the next calendar year, 2019. That's an error on our part. That should be 1119 through No, I'm sorry, that's correct. 17 sales at 243,000. So it's gone from 225 up to 243. That's an additional increase of 18,000 from the first measurement. And then from 1/1/23 through 1/1/24, you can see by this time it's gone up exponentially. So 15 sales at 368,000. Revolution Academy, which is 3800 Oak Ridge Road, Summerfield, that's very close to where my firm is. That was the most recent school, built in 2021. And homes there average 3,000 to 3,500 square foot. And you can see the sale prices have almost doubled since the school was built. Right before the school was built. 1/1/19 through 1/1/20, 17 sales at 375,000.
Advance the slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Thank you. From 1/1/20 through 1/1/21, 16 sales of 423,000. 1/1/21 through 1/1/22, 18 sales, 477,000. The next year, 589,000, 10 sales. And then most recent, 9 sales at 707,000. So not saying that the school is the sole variable making these prices go up, but certainly has not hurt the values of these homes in any way. The report concludes the building of these schools did not have a negative impact on the values of single-family residential homes within the immediate markets of these three respective schools. Home sale value averages rose steadily in R3 zoning districts with schools during the period 2015 through 2024. Now, with regard to the effect on traffic flow, the student drop-off and pickup for the proposed school will be from the circular one-way entrance drive at the front of the subject property, which is the driveway access from Kensington Drive. And here you have a good view of what that will look like. The circular area that looks almost like a horseshoe, you have the traffic entrance and then the traffic exit. And the church has offered a condition to the special use permit to revise the circulation pattern of the circular access drive in front of their facility from a one-way single lane to a one-way dual lane circulation pattern. And this configuration will permit an on-site dual stacking area for approximately 15 cars in order to accommodate a school of up to 50 students. The special use permit conditions for approval of the site development: approximately half of the land area of the subject property is undeveloped, and the current institutional structure lies on the subject property in such a manner that it is not closer than 79 feet from the nearest residential property lines. No tree lines, no green buffer zones will be removed or diminished in an effort to maintain the privacy of all residents surrounding the subject property and to meet the City of High Point policy guidance. As was noted earlier, the structure shall not be expanded beyond the building footprint. This does not preclude the installation of fencing or playground equipment, picnic shelters, other accessory recreational equipment, but the recreational equipment and picnic shelters shall not be placed within perimeter landscaping yards, and the church shall comply with these conditions. A street yard, landscape yard, shall be installed, maintained along the entire Kensington Drive frontage of the property, 2 trees and 17 shrubs every 100 linear feet. A Type B semi-opaque landscape yard shall be installed and maintained along the entire perimeter of the property, 14 trees and 33 shrubs every 100 linear feet. Existing vegetation may be used to meet the above noted planting yard conditions, and the church will comply with these conditions. No additional vehicular access points shall be permitted. This is the condition for traffic, and the church shall convert the existing Circle Drive to a dual lane queuing and drop-off area, as was stated earlier. And so when we look at the guidelines of what's required, the findings, as was stated earlier, Under 4A, will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed. We believe that the proposed school and the conditions that have been agreed to certainly satisfy this provision. Number 2, complies with all required standards, conditions, specifications of this ordinance. We believe it complies with that as well. And then, of course, letter C, not substantially injure the value of the abutting land. We believe Mr. Howard's testimony and his appraisal is going to show that it's not going to hurt the value of the land. If anything, it helps the value of the neighbor's land. Letter D will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located. And then letter E is in general conformity with the city's adopted policy guidance. So we appreciate the opportunity to present. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for the witness?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Harmon, I'm a little confused on the pickup and drop off. If you can have 50 students, 15 cars that can fit in there, that math doesn't work for me. Because part of the concern was to be stacking up on Kensington, right, to pick up the children. So is the school going to get out at different times if they're elementary versus middle versus high? So unless you're picking up 5 kids, the math doesn't work.
Would it be appropriate at this time to allow my client to?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
If you'll come forward as
Reverend
a witness, state your name and address for the record, and confirm that you've been sworn.
My name is Barton Atkins. I live at 600 Wentworth Drive in Winston-Salem.
Will you confirm your relation to the case and confirm for the record that you've been sworn in?
Yes, sir. I confirm I was sworn in, and I am the pastor of High Point Family Worship Center.
Thank you. Please proceed.
And so I believe the question was about the math of the stacking. And so we had the assistance. I do not claim to be a traffic safety engineer, and so I definitely leaned upon the assistance of City of High Point. And as I understand it, traffic safety of City of High Point did the numbers on our behalf and found that to be the case.
I guess I should have asked staff about that, or is it too late to ask staff?
Well, this is Councilmember Cook. Could he answer the other part of the question, which was, are all the school children going to be arriving and dismissing at the same time, or will there be different schedules for the different levels?
Great question. So for K-5 through 12, there's no separation in the pickup drop-off times at this time. It would only be between 13 and 20 students this year, and it just didn't necessitate it. But I would be happy to look at that if the city required us going forward, if they felt that there was an issue with that drop-off pickup time being at the same for all the students.
I got another related question. Since it's going to be high school, in theory, some of the students who are juniors and seniors are going to be driving themselves. So they wouldn't actually do the pickup and drop-off. So how are they going to park in the back using the other driveway?
Yes, sir, and perhaps that was, I'm not privy to all of the calculations that were done. They used a standard method that I was shown in their staff report. But yes, sir, the students driving would have the back and lower parking lots available for parking. And then there are entrances at the back of the building and at the bottom lower parking lot as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
At this time, I'll ask Mr. Venable to come back forward. This is Greg Venable with staff, City of High Point. He's already affirmed that he's been sworn in. If you'll kindly speak to the question that was posed by Councilmember Harmon.
So my staff did take a look at the queuing and the drop-off and pickup times. We use what's called the MSTA, which is the Municipal Student Transportation and Assistance Guidance. So there's a calculator basically that all schools use, and we put the numbers into that calculation. And for 50 students, you have enough queuing there to accommodate. I think you only need 172 feet. If they double stack on the site like they're proposing, they can get over 300 feet of queuing. So it more than meets the need for 50 students. Actually, 300 will accommodate 110 students. So as far as we did the calculation based on all students being dropped off, even if they were juniors or seniors driving. The only requirement that we had that they can't use that back parking lot for any type of queuing. They have to do the queuing in front there. So that was the only calculations that we had and by our standard MSTA that meets the queuing length for the number of students.
Are there any other questions from council for
I do.
the witness? Councilmember Moore.
either the pastor or Mr. Attorney Engel. The hours of operations, most schools have activities outside for the kids, and looking at the diagram, what is going on there as far as will there be any nighttime sports activities or what goes on for the youngsters there?
Yes, sir. Great question. So at this time, there's nothing planned that would be extracurricular. And of course, for this special use permit, we did not seek that, ask that, especially with the space that we have on site. We do have, it's called a multi-purpose room. We call it a gymnasium. So we do use that for physical education. And then the lower field at the lower entrance, we use that. We play volleyball, kickball, baseball, those types of things as well. But as far as development of it for a proper field, stadium, seating, but no, sir, there won't be any of that.
And your accreditation is going to be through?
It's fully accredited using the Abeka Academy out of Florida, and it is nationally accredited at state and national levels.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
This is Councilmember Cook. There was a question earlier about the ADM reporting. So would you follow the same guidelines as public and charter schools for 10-day reporting and then mid-year? Or how will we know the numbers?
Also, great question. So we, as a private school, it falls under the Department of Non-Public Education. And so I think there was a question earlier about who presents data to that department. That is us. We do report that data on the students, their names, their addresses, who they are, and then we can be site checked as many as 4 times a year or perhaps more if they deem that necessary. But all of that material that we present and provide to them is fact checked by the Department of Non-Public Education. And so that would be, as far as how accessible that is to council, I don't know, but I'm happy to provide that information at any time and give that to any council member that would need it.
That reporting frequency, is that every time you enroll a new student, do you report that, or is that quarterly, monthly? What is the reporting frequency?
And so the initial report is at an annual basis when you have your initial enrollment for the school year. And then after that has been completed, they compile that data. I say they, the Department of Non-Public Education. They compile that and produce a report that is available through that portal online each late September. And so annually at September, they have that report compiled from what was in from the previous year, as well as any incoming students for the next year in August.
Sure, but for compliance purposes to meet your cap at 50, that would only be accessible once per year.
The data could be accessed at any time, if that's, and I apologize if I misunderstood.
No, I'm talking about since the frequency of reporting it requires once per year. Would you report more frequently to have that updated to make sure that you're meeting your cap or in compliance with your cap?
If city council required that, I'm most happy to do that. Transparent, open book, and I understand the question to make sure we're complying with the number of 50. Would be happy. And if I may, I think I would be foolish to try to go over that number, seeing that I stood before you all here tonight and probably on camera in front of all these folks here. So we certainly want to comply in every way that we can.
Thank you.
Madam Attorney, can I recognize you at this time?
I think what perhaps some of the council members are thinking about is if they were to go beyond the 50, certainly any of the school reporting is outside of the scope of the standards that we're looking at here tonight. If they were to go above the 50, then it would be a question of just code enforcement.
Sure.
So that would be like if there was a complaint or somebody learned in the community that it was more than 50, and then it would just go through the normal process that the city does for any time that it would be like a zoning violation through code enforcement. But certainly, that's a tool to know the numbers, but that's handled by the state accreditation.
Thank you, Madam Attorney.
Does council have any other questions for the witness? Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that intends to offer testimony regarding this case? So please come forward. Please recall that your testimony should be competent.
Mayor, I believe that they were going to offer their appraiser as a witness as part of the applicant's testimony. Is that right?
Okay.
If you want to, it's up to you.
Okay, do you want to offer your appraiser as a part of your own testimony?
Yes, sir, we have him here, just in case anybody has questions.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Will you please come forward? You state your name and address for the record, as well as what you're here for, and just confirm that you've been sworn.
Chris Howard, residential certified appraiser in North Carolina, license number A6925. Been doing appraisals for about 18 years. Was asked by Mr. Atkins to do an analysis of the impact of schools built on the residential single-family houses in the area. They already went through the data. Yes, sir.
You just confirmed
I
you've been
was,
sworn?
yes, I was sworn in.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm sorry. He showed you the data. The data, by no means do I believe that the creation of any of these schools had a positive impact to the values of the areas. That was not what the data was represented to show. It was more just to show that there was no negative impact to the areas by the creation of those schools. And then obviously I kind of went through multiple years, but also our most recent year. There's no doubt that everyone's probably aware that our real estate market has been nothing less than spectacular for the last handful of years. And so I guess my testimony is just to say that in my research done that there was nothing that indicated that the creation of these schools had a negative impact to the single-family residential properties that were within that market area.
Okay. Are there any questions from counsel for the witness?
I have one.
Councilman Harmon.
The two High Point schools, I mean, the nearest houses, I know that you said they're within a mile, but they're separated by Highway 68, right? Because that's like.
No, sir. The ones on Kleiner Dairy are both, they're across the street from each other, but they're down the street, kind of from each other. They're not in a neighborhood per se,
Right.
But they are on a, relatively, there are neighborhoods that are behind each of these, some of which were being built during the time that these were being built. Revolution Academy is on Oak Ridge Road, which is Highway 150 in Summerfield, but very large neighborhoods all around that campus as well. My children actually go to that school, so I'm around it every day, and then live kind of near that area as well. So I don't know if that answered your question or not.
It does. I was just thinking about potential impacts if the houses are actually across 68th, and you wouldn't actually, it'd be kind of hard to assess whether or not.
Well, 68 is on the other side. So these are Kleiner Dairy on the west side of 68. All the neighborhoods that were right around there would be, trying to think of the neighborhood names, but all the ones that are built by Royal Homes built two or three big communities over there. Keystone Homes built a lot of neighborhoods, single family, both townhomes and single family dwellings. The reason I chose the square footage range that I did was because those were more predominant size homes for those particular areas, more of a standard single family home for those areas. And so I just use that just as a benchmark to be able to show what values for that specific range happen throughout the years over the time.
All right, thank you.
I have a question, Mayor.
Councilmember Moore.
Yeah, Councilman Moore. In your 18 years, you spoke of the market and what it's been like for the last 4 or 5 years. Prior to that, it's always a discussion when this type of development comes up, even if it's not a school, just straight residential type stuff. Have you seen a time or another instance where you were asked to deal with looking into a school of some sort where it had a negative impact?
No, I've not been asked to give consideration in a case just like this.
Okay.
On a day-to-day basis, I do anywhere from 700 to 1,000 appraisals a year, single-family residential, all in the Triad area, all the counties that touch Guilford. As part of our analysis, obviously I do an analysis of each property based on its location. So whether it's relative to schools or railroad tracks or any other external, obsolescent or impactful surroundings. And then obviously we do a market analysis on every appraisal that we do. So to try to determine whether or not the market's increased or decreased or whatever on a yearly rate. As far as specifically being, asked to do an assignment like this, no, I have not.
Okay.
But again, every appraisal we do, we analyze all that data for everything. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Howard, thank you. I do want to state for the record that Mr. Howard is tendered as an expert for the purposes of these proceedings.
Thank you.
And I believe the city was in agreement with that as well. Is that right? Yes. Mhm.
Any other questions from counsel for the witness, for the applicant? At this time, we'll transition to the non-party testimony. At this time, if there's anyone else that intends to offer testimony regarding this case, will you please come forward? Please recall that your testimony should be competent, material, and sufficient. We ask that you focus on facts, and how those facts apply to the specific special use permit standards, not personal preference or opinion. Please also be aware that the applicant and any other parties have certain rights to object your testimony and cross-examine you as a witness. The council, however, will determine what evidence to consider and how much weight to assign it. Before you begin, please state for the record your name, address, relation to the case, and please confirm for the record that you were previously sworn.
Camden Vaughn, 1402 Country Club Drive in High Point, North Carolina. And yes, I've been sworn in.
Okay, perfect. Please proceed.
Okay. So I've compiled two sets of numbers. The first is what I came prepared with, and then the second is just based on what was presented today based on the number of classrooms. I believe it was 9, 5 for one floor and 4 for the other. So the case that I wanted to present essentially is, and they even kind of stated in what they laid out for you, the letter that they sent out stated that in year 1 they would hit 13 students, expected to grow to 25 in year 2, and then up to 50 in years 3 or 4. So basically doubling the student footprint on a year-over-year basis. When they came up just now, they stated that they would have 13 to 20 students in year 1. So the case, as I mentioned before, the case that I was making is that the school has no plans to stay at the 50-student permit use. I understand that at a later time they will have to apply for the 50-student permit, but what I wanted to do is just walk through the numbers a little bit. So what I compiled is 9 teachers, that's 1 per classroom, 1 principal, and 1 janitor. The most skeleton crew you could possibly have. I did not include any insurance, landscaping, legal fees, or maintenance of the school. What that came to, and I used North Carolina averages for all of it, both for the teachers as well as the fringe rates. So I came to an all-in salary amount. Again, that's all based on North Carolina averages. What that arrives to is $860,912.18 in operating expenses. If you divide that by the maximum of 50 students that they're looking to get permitted for, that's $17,218 per student. And the average private school in North Carolina is $10,937 a year in tuition. It's a 57% increase, or otherwise $6,281 above what they average out to. So as you can see, the case that they've presented and whatnot, and again, that's just adjusting with no growth, no faculty beyond just a principal and 9 teachers. So essentially, they're not going through all this trouble to stay at 50. Not with the year-over-year growth doubling their student population. And as they stated, even in year 1, 13 to 20 students. So, I mean, those are the numbers, 860,000. When I modeled it out originally and came prepared, I made an assumption of 13 teachers, and that equated to 1.1 million. And that was, that puts you at $21,000 per student, which is more than double. I'm sorry, 23,000, which is more than double the average of 10,937 per student. So, like I said, it's not necessarily today that I'm looking to oppose. I don't personally have a problem with 50 students or that 50-student footprint, but what I am trying to lay out is financially it doesn't make sense to stay at 50, and they wouldn't go through all the trouble to operate at a loss. And the market doesn't support charging $17,218 per student, considering the average is $10,937. So that's the case I wanted to lay out.
Would object to the testimony at this point. It's relevant. It's
Will you come forward and state that, so that way everyone listening can hear it? Just state your name and who you are again for the
Yes.
record.
Attorney Ronnie Engel, representing the applicant, didn't want to interrupt the gentleman while he was speaking. I do object to the speculation of this testimony. It is pure conjecture. It is not relevant to what is before this council tonight, which is a special use permit capping the school at 50. To hypothesize of the math and the finances, getting to that point and thereafter, is way outside of the scope of what this council can consider tonight. Thank you.
Am I allowed to respond, or?
Madam Attorney, the witness wants to know, can he respond?
That was just an objection for the
That was just an
record.
objection. And do I need to do something with that objection? I don't ask it to be funny, I'm being serious.
No, you can state it for the record again if you want to, that the attorney has made the objection. I think the clerk has it in her minutes.
Okay, the attorney has made his objection. Thank you. And the witness wants to know, can he respond? That's what the witness wants to know.
Well, I think we can go ahead and see if counsel has any question for the witness while he's still testifying.
Okay, perfect. Are there any questions from counsel for the witness?
I don't know, it's Councilman Moore, I don't know per se if I have a question about the testimony. And I appreciate the work and effort that's gone into it. I did have a feeling in there, though, that we're looking basically at the special use permit. So that seems more operational to me, and I'm just not sure. We got 5 standards we got to meet by law that we're trying to hit. So I appreciate the work, appreciate the concern and the providing, but I'm just not sure that it's relevant to what we're being asked to do right now.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Holmes.
Mr. Vaughn, are you arguing that anything that exceeds 50 will cause disparate impact to the neighborhood or surrounding area?
So what I'm arguing is that they're trying to establish a base case. As they laid out in the letter that they sent out to the residents, it says parking and traffic flow will remain consistent with our congregation's daily activity already established in the last 3 years. I've lived at my residence in the neighborhood for over 5 years. What we're talking about is a daily, and assuming a generalized 8 a.m. and 3 p.m., which is normal school hours. They're trying to establish a base case, and then from that base case build, and at a later date apply for an excess of 50 students. So to answer your question, yes, it's that 50 students would not impact, and I understand that they have to go through the application process again, but what they're trying to do is apply for it now, establish the base case, then demonstrate how they have not caused an impact to the community, and use that to further bolster their argument when they come back later and try to get that second special use permit for a higher student population.
Thank you for clarifying.
Does counsel have any further questions for the witness? Does staff have any questions for the witness? Does the applicant have any questions for the witness?
I had another objection, but I won't make it at this time.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Parties withstanding have the option to offer rebuttal witness testimony if they so choose. As a reminder, please focus on new or clarifying evidence and avoid repetition of evidence that we've already heard. Does the applicant or staff wish to call any rebuttal witnesses? No. Let the record reflect that both applicant and staff have opted not to call any rebuttal witnesses. This time, we'll move to closing statements. Parties withstanding also have the option to offer a closing statement or rebuttal argument if they so choose. As a reminder, please focus on legal arguments or statements and avoid repetition of arguments or statements we already heard. Does the applicant or staff wish to make any such arguments/statements? Okay. Please just state who you are again for the record, for those listening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Madam City Manager, and Council. In summary, I believe that we have met the burden of proof in applying for a special use permit. When you look at the required findings that need to be checked off the list tonight, A, will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed. There's no indication it's going to endanger the public health or safety. It's a school located at a house of worship with a cap of 50 students, and that's what the special use permit with conditions applied has been sought for. Letter B complies with all required standards, conditions, specifications of this ordinance, including Chapter 4 and uses, and we have shown, I believe, met the burden of proof that that will be satisfied. C will not substantially injure the value of the abutting land, or the special use is a public necessity. You heard from Mr. Howard and his appraisal that came in, that of the 3 schools opened since 2015, property values have increased. They've not been negatively affected by the school. And I think that that's important. He has been tendered as an expert. There's been nobody that has testified tonight that they can show their property value will be injured. D, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located. We've shown that. And then the catch-all category, E, is in general conformity with the city's adopted policy guidance. So we would ask the council to vote in favor of the special use permit. If at some point in the future, my client wants to come back, they have a process they can avail themselves to. The council will be able to review this situation all over again, and they understand that. But we're here tonight just to seek approval for the special use permit that's before you. Thank you.
Thank you. And let the record reflect that was the attorney for the applicant. At this time, if staff wishes to make a closing statement, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Nick Tosco, again, for city staff. I'm going to be very short and just say that nothing in the hearing has changed staff's recommended approval. The 5 standards that you all are tasked with considering, we believe the burden of production has been met by the applicant, and so staff would continue to recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the deliberation and voting portion of the meeting. Please note that the evidentiary hearing remains open so that council may ask clarifying questions if needed. Does council have any more questions for any of the parties or witnesses before we move into deliberation? Hearing no additional questions, the council will begin its deliberation. As a reminder, this council is tasked with making a decision based on the evidence presented during this hearing. This decision cannot be based on the personal preference of council members. Council members are reminded to reference applicable standards as given in your materials today and specific evidence in your deliberation. The council will now begin its deliberation, and we hope that it is active. Councilmember Moore.
I believe the burden of proof has been met in the request for the special use permit. So at this point, if there's no other comments that would like to be made, I would like to make a motion to approve the special use permit requested in application SUP-24-02 and adopt the proposed written decision in the staff report.
There's a motion that's been made by Councilmember Moore to approve the special use permit as noted in his statement. Is there a second?
This is Councilman Andrew. I'd like to make a second.
Councilman Andrew will be noted for the second. Is there any discussion on this motion?
No discussion, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to state that Mr. Vaughn's testimony, while we appreciate the analysis that you made, we cannot rule on potential future violation. Since there's no immediate disparate impact, there's no immediate violation of the special use permit, we cannot rule on something that is not yet to take place. And so thank you for coming out and voicing your opinion, voicing your statement. But I think most of council here agrees that the 5 tenets of the special use permit have been met by the applicant.
Mm-hmm. I would note as well, for the sake of discussion, reviewing the list here, We cannot see from evidence that will substantially injure the value of abutting land. From what we've heard in terms of evidence, what's been presented by staff and the applicant, it complies with all required standards, conditions, and specifications of the development ordinance. I won't go through all 5 standards because they've already been gone through. But in just looking at this list, everything we've heard tells us that it does comply.
And one other thing, if I could say, I also feel very confident in our transportation staff to check on the lights, and as this is ongoing, if there's any kind of issues with traffic, we will try to mitigate them as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Peters. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? By a vote of 9-0, the special use permit request for application SUP-24-02 is hereby approved. And with that, staff will finalize the written decision approved by the council today, including the evidence and considerations from today's hearing, and I will sign it. This written decision will be provided to the applicant and any other party with the right to the decision as required by law. Aggrieved parties will have the right to appeal the decision as provided in the development ordinance and North Carolina state law. Without objection, I'll close the hearing for application SUP-24-02. The next item on our agenda for general business is item 2024-392, consideration of a resolution supporting Guilford County Board of Commissioners sales tax referendum. City Council is requested to consider a resolution in support of the Guilford County Board of Commissioners sales tax referendum to increase wages for teachers and frontline workers. We've shared the resolution with council members, but I have it pulled up in case folks want to hear it read out loud. I will note that requests were made by the public that this body consider supporting this resolution. And when it was shared with my office, we opted to share it with you all since the public brought it forth. I will state, as I've stated in several of my communications regarding this item, I think with each of you, that my understanding is that supporting this would be great for the residents of our city. While city government does not have authority over schools, we don't manage it, we don't fund it, it absolutely impacts every single one of our residents, even if they have kids in public schools or not. There's so many business cases for why it's important within a local community to have great schools, and the data is out there that reflects where North Carolina stands in terms of certain metrics such as teacher pay and pay for other staff and faculty within school buildings. It's my opinion that if we're ever going to get serious about this, then it does take local communities being willing to do it, and hopefully that momentum, we see that push forward to see more support for those who are on the front lines of education. So my hope is that this can be supported, and if there's any questions, please let me know, and again, I've got the resolution pulled up to read.
This is Councilman Andrew. I have heard and read the resolution. I personally am in support of teachers having privately donated and taking care of teachers. However, personally, and then among taking a canvass of residents of Ward 5, I'm concerned about the precedent that this will set. We are making, as a council, using the gravitas of the council to affect a ballot initiative. While this resolution has merit, I believe that we should stay neutral and allow the public to make their own decisions on whether or not they should vote for this. One of the things that the public, there are a lot of institutions that are making good progress on informing the public on what this is about. one of the things that people need to realize that this is an intent and it's non-binding to the county commissioner. So again, this does have merit, but I am concerned about the council weighing in on a ballot initiative. For example, the $1.3 billion school bond, I do not believe that the council made a resolution one way or the other on it. They allowed the public to make that decision, along with the sales tax and everything else like that. So for that reason, not because I disagree with the intent of it, we do need to take over teachers and staff, but I don't believe that this council should be weighing in one way or the other on a ballot initiative.
Councilman Andrew, thank you. I'll offer a quick clarifying point on that, which I think was a really good point. This council has, in the past, and as a government, supported ballot initiatives. For example, in 2019, there were several ballot initiatives to support bonds for key projects that would advance and move our community forward. And at that time, it was advocated for and supported by many folks on council. And in terms of influencing or swaying decisions, I think when it's in the case of something that's great for a community, I think it's very clear that that can be within the purview of the body. So I don't think that it's entirely unprecedented or something that we're doing that's going to set some new precedent. In fact, I think it's consistent with what this government does to continue to support the health and vibrancy, the livability and safety of our community. Any other questions?
I have a
comments from
question about
council?
that. So Councilmember Andrew, I totally get what you're saying. And I know that we've supported some things in the past, but have we supported things in the past that were actually county and school board decisions and not city council decisions?
You know, that is a great question, Councilmember Peters. I don't have the record pulled up in front of me.
I just think that there's, I definitely agree with teacher pay, and I definitely believe in our schools. But at some point, with the spending, where are we with the infrastructure of our schools? How exactly is that money being spent? I know that at one point, the county commissioners were even questioning the school board on the amount that they were paying and where that money was going. So I don't know if it is our place to weigh in. I think it's up to the taxpayers to vote on, November 5th, and then decide if they want to have the increased tax hike or not.
Absolutely. For clarification, the school bond funding was purely for the buildings, no impact on teacher pay whatsoever. And North Carolina is still last in the country for teacher pay. So, also, the sales tax would not apply to items such as fuel or gasoline, would not apply on groceries or prescription drugs. In fact, most communities who end up doing this, like, to be honest, the majority of metropolitans throughout the country who leverage this kind of vehicle, they find that so much of the visitor economy drives the revenue that comes from that vehicle. And so there are communities who are leveraging that vehicle, and I can tell you for the past several years, we have these discussions. I have them mayor to mayor, whether I'm talking to the mayor in Charlotte or Raleigh or somewhere else. They're talking about how they appreciate having vehicles like that to do great things, and in Guilford County and in the Triad, we fall short and we fall behind. So,
Just, Madam Attorney, I spoke with you earlier. Did you hear back from the county attorney on the? Okay, I had a question about this. I personally have a long record of supporting our public schools and being a product of them. I also have a long history of advocating that we stayed local and didn't move to the county. My concern is, and this council and any council I've been a part of, have advocated heavily for anything that would lift all boats and increase our economy. At some point in time, I've got a couple of personal feelings that I wanted to know for sure, but I feel like that when the county brought this bond and sales tax to the table and got it on the initiative, the good business decision would have been that neither one of them passed if they didn't both pass together. I think that would have been the wise leadership from Guilford County. So now I think that, understand why they're coming back. It makes good sense. I'm not sure, I know we're not the highest paid teachers, but I'm not sure we're the lowest in the country.
We ebb and flow between number 50, 49, 48, back to 50.
Okay.
Councilmember Cook can tell you. She's
Okay,
been a part of a lot of
perfect,
those.
thank you. That's good.
Well,
And that's based on what? Just a straight-up salary? Does it include any of the others of school year, full-time school years? Are we talking?
there's a very complicated algorithm to
Mhm.
determine that average, because as you know, there's local county supplements that it pay higher in some places than others.
Mhm.
And Guilford County luckily has been a better advocate for teachers in that capacity, but North Carolina as a whole is nowhere. It's
But we're talking, but specifically in this resolution, we're talking about Guilford County.
correct.
Okay, all right. Tough issue, like several other issues, because it's very important. But I want to state for the record that fundamentally and philosophically, until we want to really tackle the issues and address, we've been going down this road for a long time. And our outcomes have been challenged too at many times. But we have to realize that money doesn't solve every problem we got. And there are other issues that go into the facts of what happens around education. So while there was nothing, Mayor, you stated and your support for that I disagree with, but I have a little bit of trouble with not the way our school systems and things are set up now, that we don't have any say-so in really how that money is distributed and who's distributing it. I think this has been on the ballot several times. Our education needs to be addressed. I just have some issues with, my big issue was with the way it was presented in the first place.
Councilmember Cook, I see you ready.
Yes. Well, I just want to say that as somebody who spent the first 8 years of my career at beginning teacher pay because the state refused to move us up on steps, that it meant a great deal to me to hear anybody speak up and say that teachers deserved more. And our saying that teachers deserve this does not bind any citizen to vote one way or the other. It's simply us as a body, if we vote that way, to say, we are with you. And there are thousands of teachers that live in our community, that work in our community every day. Cafeteria employees, bus drivers, custodians that have just been left behind, and the state has never repaired what they did in that 2008 to 2012 time period, taking away master's pay and taking away funding for people to get their national board certification. And while we cannot do anything about what the state does or does not do for teachers, we can make a statement. And I feel like it costs us nothing, and I would be very glad to promote and vote for this 100%. And I, again, do not think that any citizen should feel that they are bad or wrong if they don't agree with me or anyone else. I just think that it's an opportunity for us to put that forward.
Mayor Pro Tem Holmes.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Kind of want to approach this from a different angle. When we think about, this is not just teacher pay. This is also the operational workers who get our kids to and from school, who facilitate nutrition within our school, who make sure that our school grounds are protected and clean. If those folks are not there, then the school can't operate, and the impact to our students is great. And also, when we think about how this ultimately will be funded, the burden of this is not necessarily borne by just the taxpayer of Guilford County. Every single person who comes into Guilford County, whether they be a traveler, a visitor, tourism, whatever it may be, if they spend money within the county, they will also contribute to the revenue generated as well. And so, being that Guilford County is one of the larger counties in the state, one of the most frequently trafficked places in the state, there is a great probability that we will see a large benefit increase in revenue just by the tourism that we have consistently had over the last decade, 20 years. And so I would say consider that, and the application after that is not just the teacher pay, but it also impacts the operational capacity of our schools, because these frontline workers are just as important as the teachers who are in our classroom.
If I may follow, go ahead.
And I would like to say that these folks also need to feed their children and make sure that their children have access to a great education. And so I know for a fact that teachers have long taken money out of their own pockets, out of the homes of their families, and used that to supplement what they did not have in the classroom. And so if we're going to continue to say that education is a priority to us, we have to make sure that those who provide that education are prioritized as well.
I'll follow up, and again, just like with Mayor Jefferson, there's nothing in that I disagree with. But I think you make my point, that the county should have made it crystal clear what the sales tax did, and it should have been tied, because the taxpayers are on the hook for it, and we're on the hook for it without that supplement that you so well described. And I think that therein lies some of the frustration.
Councilman Moore, your point's a really good one about the fact that we've got a $2 billion bond that the bill will come due at some point in the future.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, this isn't a vote to support getting the bond. This is a vote to say, do you support having a way to finance paying for it? Because we will pay for it. It's just choosing, will you have another vehicle to pay for it? And I put this thought out there. When the bill comes due, as a county, we rather pay for it by the commissioners increasing property tax because they'll have to, which means that people who live and own property in the county will be the only people who pay for that.
Yep.
Versus a sales tax, which makes you share the burden with not just county residents and property owners, but you share it with every visitor. So the way I see these two things, this isn't saying whether you think we should be paying to support increases of bonds or supporting teacher pay. This is saying, do you want just property owners to foot the bill? Or would you like it to increase the odds that people who travel to our city can support and help us with that as well? And that's one point. The other point I bring up is this, and I love the way, Councilman Moore, when I got on council, I love the way you made this juxtaposition that you don't love the way we do economic development as a country and as a globe, but it's the world we're in.
I understand.
And industry is competitive, and if you're not offering incentive, you may miss those jobs coming to your community to go somewhere else. Education is no different. The top-notch educators are going where they will be paid.
Yeah.
And even not top-notch, there are some who will take a discount because they love it, but they won't go for pennies on the dollar when someone just up the road pays them a little more, and someone in another state pays them more. And so if you see this as a matter of, can we have the best folks educating our kids who we love, we got to make it somehow competitive, and let's find a way to finance it by something that it's not just on our backs, but everyone who comes into our county will support it as well.
Well said, Mayor. There's no question. But both of our points can be right.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because I do want to make it very clear that I'm not against teacher pay, and I, personally support them financially, everything else like that. It's just the resolution, that's all.
Absolutely.
I understand.
And I'll state one more time before we go to vote, and I may even call the vote. we shouldn't have been put in this position.
Right.
There was a way to have done this better from the start, and it wasn't done at the county level.
But it gives us an opportunity to make sure moving forward that we hold folks above us, or, the county and the school board accountable to make sure that High Point gets our fair share for our schools.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Are there any other comments, questions, Councilmember Johnson?
Councilmember Johnson, so we're just voting on this, whether we support it or not.
It's just a resolution.
Just a resolution.
However,
We're not passing it, attack.
However, yeah, we're not passing it, but however, the voters will vote in
Absolutely.
November.
Yeah.
So this is just saying whether we support it or not.
I just on
And
a
for the
personal-
record, I do support it.
And any other questions or comments from council? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve this item.
Second.
There's a motion made by Mayor and seconded by Councilmember Cook. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, please signify by saying aye.
No. Wait.
All those against signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Nay. Let the record reflect a vote of 8-1, and that motion passes. Next item is 2024-394, consideration of an appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission. City Council is requested to confirm the appointment of John Mays to the Historic Preservation Commission, term effective immediately and expiring on June 30th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Councilmember Cook. Any discussion on the motion to approve this appointment? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, and that motion passes. The next is consideration of reappointment to Library Board of Trustees. City Council is requested to confirm the reappointment of Rick Cornwell to Library Board of Trustees, term effective immediately and expiring October 31st, 2026. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Peters. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, and that motion passes. Before we adjourn, are there any announcements or comments from the dais for the public?
I just wanted to share that I had the opportunity to spend half a day as a principal for a day at Shady Brook Elementary recently, and just wanted to, in light of this recent conversation, affirm what a great job our principals and teachers and staff are doing. Principal Abu Zahim was able to introduce me to every staff member that we pass, but not just with a name, with a list of ways that they contribute, not just to the school, not just to their classroom, but to the entire community of High Point. They have so many programs and initiatives. They have a very diverse community at that school, and it was just a pleasure to get to interact with them on so many different ways and to continue that relationship. So if anybody has the opportunity, I know that Councilman Andrew also participated. I do encourage you to take some time and spend some time in our schools. If it's been a while since you've been in a school, you should definitely go in and experience that.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilmember Cook. Any other?
Just real quick, to piggyback on what Councilwoman Cook said, the visit I had at Southwest Middle was outstanding, and I commend the principal and the staff there. And I was made aware of some needs that they have in the school, which I will personally and among some of my business communities take on to assist them financially. So we are fully supporting our schools, and we will continue to do so. And I think we should be very clear that our teachers and our staff on the Guilford County Schools are hardworking and are worthy of our support.
Awesome. Councilmember Cook and Councilmember Andrew, both, thank you for supporting that. Mayor Pro Tem Holmes.
Yes, I'd like to quickly shout out our workforce development in the county, Guilford County. They're taking on very serious challenges when it comes to workforce development, youth employment, and also those who have been impacted in our justice system. There's a higher unemployment rate among those who have faced incarceration, who are now trying to reintegrate into society, and Guilford County is taking amazing steps to be able to reintegrate those folks into good paying jobs to stop the recidivism back into crime. And so there's a great amount of investment coming in youth and adult apprenticeships, which I know I can speak for Councilman Moore, getting young people into skilled trades in our advanced manufacturing, which is a booming industry here in the state of North Carolina, and it's doing a great job of keeping young people 14 to 25 out of bad situations when they come to not having access to work, and also reintegrating those who have faced justice system into high-paying, well-paying jobs for sustaining their lives. And so I'd like to shout out our workforce development in the county, in Guilford County.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Holmes. Any other comments or announcements from the dais?
Please.
Yes, sir.
This just came out today, so continued thoughts, prayers, that goes without saying for Western North Carolina, but right here in High Point. It's called Rock for the Block, and that's going to be November the 9th. Plank Street area is putting it on. It is listed as a huge Catalyst District block party. Says next, watch for more details. So kind of earmark that, and I know everybody is continuing to do what they can. It's going to be a slow, long recovery. Now we get to pray for Florida as Milton gears up to come ashore in a day or so.
Councilmember Moore, thank you for reminding us of that. We're certainly keeping folks in our thoughts and prayers. Rock for the Block should be a great event on November 9th. Just a couple announcements. State of the County will take place this Wednesday. So that's where Guilford County talks about State of the County. And so if you're interested in going to that, that's this Wednesday. I believe that actually starts, if I'm not mistaken, that starts at 4 o'clock, and it'll be at Union Square Campus, 124 Eastgate City Boulevard in Greensboro. This Friday, right in our city, Noche de Baile takes place at the plaza right outside the stadium. If you don't know what Noche de Baile is, should have paid attention in Spanish, first and foremost. But secondly, it is a great event where you want to make sure to bring your Nikes, your Adidas, whatever you like wearing, so you can have a good time out there. Folks always love that. It's in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. And so you'll see some members of our community that maybe you don't bump into normally. I know I've enjoyed that. The very next day, there will be a team traveling from Mexico, soccer team, to play our soccer team as their final game of the season. It's not a regular season game, it's a non-competing exhibition game, but this team's like a big deal, and again, celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. So it's basically a great weekend of being in downtown. So that's on Saturday. And then I feel like I'd be remiss because I just checked my calendar, and apparently I didn't know y'all's birthdays are 7 days apart. And so we had our clerk celebrate her birthday on October 3rd, and our deputy clerk celebrate her birthday, coming up on October 10th. And so we just want to say happy birthday to you both. We hope that you all are enjoying it. All right, at this time, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion. By Councilmember Peters. Who's the second by? Second. The second, this time, is by Mayor Pro Tem Holmes. Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any against? The ayes have it, we are adjourned.